Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Ponsky, your guide to college, and this is Being Jewish in College's video series, Kibbutz in 10 Minutes. Today, you're going to get 10 minutes of valuable information from Annie Weinberg, Assistant Director of the Brody Jewish Center Hillel at the University of Virginia. Thank you so much, Annie, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. To kick things off, my first question always is, what is the name of the Jewish Center on campus, even though I just said it?
Yeah, so the name of our Hillel is the Brody Jewish Center Hillel at the University of Virginia, but we like to call it the BJC here.
Perfect. So sometimes this part is a little hard for campuses to figure out, but how many Jewish students do you have on campus? And in particular, if you know the breakdown of students in terms of how they might identify secular, reform, conservative, Orthodox, humanist, reconstructionist, or whatever title a student might use to define themselves?
Yeah, so we estimate there's somewhere between 900 and 1,000 Jewish students at UVA out of around 16,000 undergraduate students. Graduate programming is different. We mainly serve the undergraduate population at UVA. And so of those like 900 to 1,000, we usually see around 700 at least once in a year. I would say we're much more reform conservative leaning. Our students generally come from more secular or like reform communities. We do have students who are came from more traditionally conservative families, and I would say very few who have Orthodox backgrounds, although there are some here or there. But in general, it's mostly leaning more secular reform.
Wonderful. So in terms of food, which is important for everyone, are there kosher food options available to students? And if so, what are they?
Yes, there are. I wouldn't say they're the best of all college campuses around the country. We did have a couple students a few years ago take the initiative to join the dining committee and be a little bit more to bring some advocacy around kosher dining options. We have an option where you can just go into any dining hall and say, can I have the kosher meal? And they'll give it to you. I've never had it, but I do know that it's an option. And then, of course, because we do have a Chabad and a Hillel on campus or near campus, usually students who are keeping kosher, at least kosher meat, they get their fix of that through coming to programming with us or with the Chabad on campus.
Okay. So speaking of kind of programming, are there weekly Shabbat dinners or activities or gathering opportunities for students?
Yeah, so we have pretty much every week we have something called Bagels on the Lawn, which I can speak to a little more in a minute, where students come every Wednesday from 10:30 to 12:30. And if you know anything about UVA, the lawn is like the center of grounds, as we call it, and it's really, it's supposed to be this academic village where back in the day, professors and students lived together and studied together on the lawn. And we usually have at least one Jewish student who gets the honor of living there their fourth year, and they host Bagels on the Lawn. We call it Bodel, and it's very popular. And so that happens every Wednesday, and the staff members just hang out, and students come by, get to take a break between classes and just be outside, which is really nice. We do it all year, so it does get very cold sometimes. And that's our largest event. I know there's a question about that. That is one of our largest, most popular events. We regularly are seeing about 100 students every week at that. And then we have an event every Thursday in the library that I run where I just, it's called Kvetch and Kvel, where students come and they tell me something good and something bad from the week, and they eat snacks and we just do work together in the library. And then every Friday we do have Shabbat services and dinner at our building. Sometimes they look a little different depending on if there's a football game that night or something like that will alter the way we do Shabbat, but pretty much every week we have a Shabbat service and dinner option.
Wonderful. So my next question is most popular and well-attended program on campus, which you just answered. So we'll definitely can move forward unless you want to just talk about maybe another option or another program that you guys do that is really well attended and that just families and students should know about.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would also just say with Bagels on the Lawn, Bodel, it's big. It's a huge part of our culture. So the students have had the option to buy swag, like merchandise with the logo on it. Non-Jewish students who are friends of our students will come to that program often. It's really well known around the community, which is it's very fun. So I would say it's one of our favorite events. We also brought back a tradition that we had back when I was a student, which I didn't say. I did go to UVA undergrad. Our entire current staff did, and we're bringing on a new staff member who's from another Virginia college, so it counts. But we had an event called Matzah Ball, which is a formal in the spring for Jewish students at UVA, kind of to kick off the Passover season. And our student leaders brought it back last year, and it had about 200 some students on the corner just for like a fun night of celebrating and being together, which was really fun.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, in terms of like flipping the conversation a little bit to academics, are there any Jewish studies majors or minors for students to pursue, or are there Hebrew language course options available that students can take?
Yeah, so there are all of the above. We have a Jewish studies major and minor. There's a Jewish studies program at UVA. It's really well done. I think majority of our staff as students took classes in the Jewish studies program at some point. We do have Hebrew at UVA, modern Hebrew and biblical Hebrew, I think. I took it in college. It was a lot of fun. And that's actually how I met some of my first Jewish friends at UVA, was through my Hebrew class.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to flip it a little more to like the social justice climate on campus. So if you could talk just a little bit about either the political or social justice climate around topics that might occur on campus, like if there's anything about BDS movements, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, anti-Israel, and more so if there have been incidences, more, how does the university respond, and how are students able to create safe space for themselves on the campus?
Yeah, I think I'll answer the social justice piece first, just in general, the way our student body treats, repairing the world, justice, service work. And as a whole, the university is very passionate about that. And we have students who are really involved in other clubs that do a lot of service for the community. We have 4 interns who their whole position is to plan service and advocacy group projects for our students. So very involved, very leadership oriented community where people want to be making change and doing good. To speak to like the Jewish experience when it comes to advocacy and things related to BDS and anti-Semitism, I would say we're really lucky in general. We haven't had the kind of like pushback and intense anti-Israel or anti-Semitism experiences on campus. I obviously can't speak to every individual uniquely when it comes to their anti-Semitism experience, but I will say that in general, UVA is a really lovely place to be Jewish, and I think our students feel a lot of pride and comfort being Jewish here. They're really encouraged to bring their non-Jewish friends to all of our events, which I think makes them feel a lot more pride and comfortability with the community, and their friends get to know the staff and really just understand the Jewish community. So I would say in general, when it comes to anti-Semitism, we have a very good climate. And also we have really good relationships with the university. So while we're a separate nonprofit, our staff know a lot of employees at the university, and anytime there has been some kind of discomfort or flare up, it's been dealt with very quickly and with a lot of care. When it comes to BDS, we also really have been pretty lucky in terms of the intensity. We've had a couple things happen here or there. Last year, we had a student, non-Jewish student, proposing an academic boycott, and pretty quickly we weren't sure how our students would react because it's such a I would say more apathetic climate when it comes to BDS, and our students were really proactive in getting together and figuring out how to educate people and understand where people were coming from, and then kind of speak to the Jewish experience and why this was so hurtful. So yeah, I would say it's a generally mild climate.
Wonderful. What challenges, if any, might a Jewish student face coming to the UVA campus?
I think it depends so much on where you're coming from, because there are some students here, which I love this about our community. We might have a student who grew up in Southwestern Virginia, and the first other Jewish person they're meeting is at UVA. And then we have students who came from a public school in New York, in like Long Island, with 40% of the school is Jewish. and they have no idea what it's like to have to actively look for a Jewish community. So I think both of those people are coming together and trying to figure out how to be Jewish outside of what they grew up in. And it can be really interesting because we'll meet people their third year of college who are, grew up keeping kosher, went to synagogue, went to a Jewish day school, and we haven't seen them until their third year because they come here and they're like, all right, I want that to be like, that was my home life. Let me try some new things. And then we kind of see by third year, they're like, wow, I really missed this. I didn't realize how much I needed it. And so it's not really a challenge, but you're kind of bummed because you're like, we could have known you for 2-3 years. We're glad you're here. And then for the students who never had Jewish experiences growing up, it's also a challenge for them to like see how other people live Jewishly and figure out like, okay, how do I want to do this? And then I think in general, making the time and prioritizing Jewish experiences in college, like there are certain things that the students want to do and they love to do, but then also there's the years where you just can't take off for Yom Kippur and you're not going to come to anything because you just feel like you need to be in class, and that's okay. We're very big on meeting Jewish students where they are. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
What is one interesting piece of information about UVA that you would love for people to know?
About UVA, like Jewish life specifically, or just in general, the school?
It can be either.
I'm trying to think of like something cool, interesting, and then something just informative. I would say something informative is that we have a really robust first year experience. So if you're a Jewish student coming into UVA, we have loads of opportunities for you to become part of our community early on. And most of those came from this student-led, staff-supported mindset and student self-governance mindset that UVA is really big on as a whole. So we had student interns who pitched certain ideas. So for example, we have a first-year leadership program called HJLI, and a student pitched that with me. And we ran the program, and part of the program is learning about your leadership style, but also learning about design thinking and how to help create solutions for needs in a community. One of the groups came up with an idea for an early move-in program, pitched it to our board, it got approved, and then last year we launched it for the first time. And so now we have an early move-in opportunity that you can do move in 2 days early with your families, and then go to a campsite for 2 nights, meet like 30 to 35 other first-year Jewish students, meet a bunch of upperclassmen who are leading the camp. And then by the time your first day of class starts, you already know 40 people. And it's called Camp Waju. It's been really successful. We're about to do our second year of it. And then we have leadership opportunities. We have a lot of student internship opportunities. So I would just say we're really big on student leadership here. And also we do have a lot of programming for first years that I think has made them feel really at home. Something else interesting about UVA Hillel is we have a beautiful building. You can't see it right now, but it's massive, and it's a 24-hour swipe access building for students. So students can come anytime they want, any time of the night, get a snack. We have coffee. There's about 7 different rooms they can study in. There's TVs, there's foosball tables, there's outdoor games. And it's a really good resource. It's really close to upperclassmen housing and Greek life. And I think our building, it really feels like a home. I mean, it is a home. It's in a neighborhood that other adults live in. And it's just a really beautiful space.
Wonderful. Okay, so my final question always is, what do you love most about being one of the leaders of the Jewish community at UVA?
I think our students are just amazing. I mean, I think all students are probably amazing, and every Hillel staff member probably thinks that, but I mean, they're just so intelligent while also, and they care so much about work and putting in effort, but they're also so fun, and they're so curious, and they want to have deep conversations with you, and they really want to know you. And so, I mean, it's such a pleasure getting to take them on birthright trips, for example, because you really get to see them outside of the academic element, even more so than normal. And they're just really funny, cool, smart people. I think that's to get to work with people like that every day is really amazing. And they do things with the Jewish community, not because they have to or because they want it on a resume, but just because they want to be there. A lot of the other things they do are for, resumes and for building up a professional network. And I think when they come here, they do get some of that, but they're also just here to like be Jewish and have a good time. And I think it's fun to get to be the person who gives that to them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, those are my 10 questions. This was really great. There's a lot of families that I know are very interested in UVA, particularly the Jewish life. So this was just an awesome opportunity to learn more. So thank you so much. And for anyone who is listening or watching, you can, all the information about how to connect with the Brody Jewish Center is going to be available on the YouTube page as well as on Facebook. And you can also, and we'll give links to everything. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Annie, for participating, and we'll see you all next time.